that giving the case, I believe that it is more efficient for the town to run the cemetery through a department manager. Now, it doesn't have to be a separate department manager. It could be under another department, you know, such as building and grounds or what have you. That's not critical which department at this time. But it will be more efficient in terms of using the money, the economic resources, and using the people, and also we'll be able to offer as much, if not more, benefits to the people working for that department. And I think the selectmen and the town administrator are fully capable, if they're fully capable of running a multi-million-dollar police department or a highway department, they're certainly capable of running a significantly smaller cemetery operation. I'm not saying that you're doing a bad job. You're doing a wonderful job, and we're proud of the job you're doing. But it's an economic fact. We're going to run out of money, and you're going to need professional help.
Mr. Dekoff.
Yes. The cemetery, as you know, my first year on the Budget Committee was brought up with the fact that it was going to be running out of money. And that's the biggest issue with the interest rates being down, that it will run out of money, and it is going to be up to the voters of the town of Alton to take on the cemetery. So at this time, it would have to go back to the voters to decide if they want to take on the cemetery. It wouldn't be, like Dave says, up to the Board of Selectmen. It would be up to the voters, because the trustees run the cemetery. They control everything in that budget, and the Board of Selectmen have nothing to do with that. And that would be my answer.
Shirley, you want to follow up with a second question? I'll allow you to do that. Oh, I didn't go to Pat. I'm sorry, Pat. Let's let Pat speak first.
Shirley and I discussed this just kind of briefly before, but first of all, I haven't heard an official request from the cemetery. All I remember is up until the last 2 years is Shirley starting your presentation with the only line item you have any control over is the first one, which is the trustees, which the taxpayers do pay for. And it hasn't been an issue until the last couple of years when we hit the recession and the interest rates went down on the trust fund. And right now, the trustees have, the cemetery trustees have total control over that trust fund. They make up their own budget, and they ask the trustees to pay it, and that the selectmen have no control over that yet, that trust fund at all. But every town is required to support and take care of their cemeteries. And so the issue will be coming down the pike, and the taxpayers will be taking over the burden of the cemeteries at some point. But I'm just surprised by the question, because as far as I know, an official request to the Board of Selectmen hasn't been made to treat it like any other department yet.
Shirley, you want to follow up with a...
Or if we did, it came up, actually, and it also has come up because of last year's deliberative session when it raised the cemetery's budget by $20,000.
The budget committee cut our budget by $20,015.
Then it got it raised.
We took it to the deliberative session, and the people spoke.
And they raised it.
They wanted the cemetery.
And the Board of Selectmen assumed it would come out of the trust fund, and it's only recently you guys told us that you wanted the town to pay that $20,000, which we are going to be paying.
Because it was added to the bottom line and therefore became tax dollars.
Well, we never thought, we thought it was just going to go into come out of the trust fund just like any other thing.
Not according to the Attorney General's office.
No, I know.
Yeah.
We now have that opinion, and it's now going to be paid by tax dollars.
Okay, we did our homework to find this out.
I'm not arguing that.
This question, whatever she's coming up with, is for all of you again, so start thinking about...
Okay.
Go ahead, Shirley.
The cemetery trustees are elected officials, you're correct on that. But so are the library trustees. They are elected. The school board is elected, and they run their departments solely without any say on it, except for what the budget committee controls on the budget. And the budget committee controls our budget also. You said all the departments were called in and spoken to on the thing. The cemetery was never included in that. I spoke to you about that before, and you assured me the cemetery would be called in. We weren't, but that's okay. If you don't want to hear from us, that's fine. But we are part of this town. I would like you to define, who was it that said we needed professional help to run the cemetery?
Who's that question for?
I don't know who said that.
I said,
Mr. Miller?
Okay. I have been cemetery trustee for over 13 years, and we attend every year the seminars that are run by the Attorney General. We have studied our RSAs and the laws on running a cemetery. We know where we're coming from. And I think that was kind of a low blow to say we need professionals to run the cemetery. I think we've been doing it and doing a fine job with the trustees that I've had to work with. They've all been excellent. But the voters elected us. The voters spoke. The voters are the taxpayers. And I don't see why you people consider that the taxpayers have no say in this whole thing. They have as much say in our department as they do in the selectmen when they go to the polls and vote you people in. You're running the town for them. We're running the cemetery for them. And it's the same thing. Tax dollars is tax dollars. Departments are departments. I don't understand the distinction between one or the other.
Julie, was that a question or just a statement?
I don't know.
I think it was a statement. Let's go on. Any other questions from the audience?
Barbara Howard. A pet peeve of mine is the fact that we absolutely, as citizens, are kept in the dark with our police department. I have repeatedly, like beating a dead horse, asked for police reports. I've been told that they don't have the technological capacity to generate such a report. I was wondering if, the question I have is, do you believe that the citizens have a right to be collaborative partners with their police force and have more, have the right to have more information about the people that are supposed to be protecting and serving us? There's very little information about what really is going on, and you know, I don't even know about crimes that might be happening in my own neighborhood. So I'd just like to have your opinion about that, and if you were elected, those of you who are running again, what would you do to try and rectify that?
We'll start with Mr. Clay on that one.
My first 7 years in the Air Force, I did police work, and I believe, you asked about a collaborative effort, and it always has to be that way with the community. You have to be willing to go out there, introduce yourself, talk to the community, and let the community know what's going on in their neighborhoods. If there's a crime spree in one neighborhood, you have to alert the people that live there so that they can work together to keep an eye out for each other, because we're all together. We want to protect each other at every step. I would think that the police department might hold a get-to-know-you evening, introduce themselves, let them know what how they patrol, how often we can expect them to come into our neighborhoods. And I think a police blotter was always published every place I've worked for the community to look at, and I would be in favor of a police blotter indicating what crimes took place.
Thank you. Mr. Hussey.
As far as the police blotter, I have spoke up on this before. In fact, I'd say 3 or 4 times I have spoken in favor of a police blotter. And I think you know that, Pat. But as of yet, we have not got one. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Mr. Miller.
when it comes to the police blotter, 90% of the police blotter is town gossip. It's a DUI here, it's somebody got caught with drug paraphernalia in their car. And for that reason, I'm against having a police blotter in the daily paper. What I think should be there are felonies. First degree, second degree felonies, absolutely, positively. I don't have an issue with that. What is available, the police are incident reports. And these are readily available, and to my knowledge, I don't believe that the police chief has an issue in sharing this information, because he did share it with the budget committee, and therefore it is already public information. I'm willing to bet that anybody here or looking in, on the TV can call up the chief and ask, I'd like to ride around with you with one of your officers for a day or for an evening and experience what the issues are around town. I'm sure he'd be willing to sit down with almost anybody in town and discuss, critical, information and concern of what part of towns there may be significant issues, law enforcement issues, things of that nature. I don't want to see it turn into, I don't want to publish a gossip column. I don't have a problem with first and second degree felonies.
Mark Dekoff.
Yes, I agree that there should be a police log in the paper, maybe not every week, maybe monthly. And if the selectmen have already asked the chief to do that, obviously it would have to go down to where he'd have to be told that he needs to provide that, if that's possible for the select board to make that request. For the police department, every officer that I've come into contact with, I've had no problems with. When my son had his seizure, I live way out on the end of Dudley Road, and the police were the first ones there and took care of the situation. So I think we have a good police department down there at this time.
Thank you. Patricia Fuller.
This is one area where I've changed my opinion. I had sided with the chief. He said he couldn't do it for whatever reasons, but I've seen them in the paper, and I think he can do them. He's just resistant to doing it, and I think the Board of Selectmen needs to apply more pressure on him to do it. Because I've seen him from other towns. I don't think it should be a gossip column, but I have seen them for other towns, and I don't see any problem with a fire log being in the paper either. As far as the police department itself, all of the suggestions that you just made have already been done. And to be honest with you, the businesses don't like to see the cruiser parked out front. And I've talked to some of the business owners, and they really are kind of resistant to that. So, but they're all good ideas, and they can be done. And, I think our police department is improving. As most people know, we've had significant problems, and it just takes time to get over them.
Thank you. Rachel Strickland.
To your question, Barbara, I worked at the Belmont Police Department for 6 months. I was a dispatcher. I'm not sure what Alton has for their equipment down there, but as simple as even if they handwrite their reports, they can use a copy machine, copy it, hand it out to you, if it's legal to do so. I believe the police department has its own set of problems going on right now, which I'm not going to get into. I also believe that there should be a log in the paper as far as crimes going on in town, not just felonies, and not just to say, yeah, this person got a DWI, this person was smoking in their car, but burglaries and breaking and enterings in people's cars, just a gender of different things, I believe needs to be put out in the public, because like you said, there's a lot of people that do not know what's going on in this town, and they need to know for their safety. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Mr. Longabaugh.
Bob Longabaugh, question to each one of you. If elected, you'll be serving 3 years. Is there one thing that you'd like to accomplish and come away feeling good about, that you did this for the town, or you changed that, or you undid something you thought, what one thing would you really like to accomplish in your 3 years?
We'll start with Mr. Hussey on this.
Yes. Actually, one of my pet things is trying to keep taxes where they are, but yet expanding our tax base. This can be done very easily by going back on laws that the town has on the books now that don't make sense. And if you question them, like, why is that law there, I'm finding there's no real reason for it. And I can give you a real, for instance, why this came up in front of me, and this is why I want to start studying our laws. As a lot of you know, I'm building Camp David down the road down there, and I'm putting an apartment above my barn while I build my house. Well, when I get done building my house, I have to tear my apartment out. That doesn't make sense to me. I have 139 acres there. There's no problem with surge, but if I connected that barn to the house, I could keep the apartment. Now that doesn't make sense, because the town could tax me for that apartment, and I would have no problem for it, because I want a caretaker sometime when I get a little bit older. But you know, and I'm looking at that. And another thing is that I'm looking at are laws that we can't defend. We don't take a look at our state and federal laws before we make laws. And if we did this, we would save ourselves a multitude of money, because we cannot defend them. When you go to court and you get up to federal court and the federal goes, Federal Communication Act says that you've got to do this, we've just blown $250,000. And to me, we need to start looking at that and start coordinating a lot of our laws with it when we write them, or even look at what's on the books now, because we are wasting money with lawyer fees. Anyhow, that's would be what I would like to accomplish before I leave.
Stephen Miller.
I think the critical issue is an ever-increasing town budget that translates into increased property tax rate. And that, coupled with increasing revenue growth and solidifying property market values, is what I'd aim to attack first. The way I do this is that I would insist upon a level-funded budget based on zero-cost budgeting. Until Alton's economy can sustain an approximate 3% growth rate, I'd recommend working backwards and set the level target property tax rate first, given a flat school budget, and require departments to meet their individual flat budgetary objectives. So instead of starting, let me see your wish list, let me see your need list, I would hope to direct the town administrator to give direction to the department heads that this is the target tax rate that we're looking to achieve, assuming a flat school budget, which is a whole nother issue, and then work from there. And then I would like to see town officials more individually proactive in recruiting new businesses by creating a growth marketing plan. To my knowledge, and I'm not a selectman right now, there is no marketing plan to bring new business into town. There's a master plan of who we let become a business here, but there's no way to bring that business in here. As an example, what is wrong with town officials, for instance, a selectman, going out and recruiting a dentist for the town of Alton? Okay, or other retail establishments. In other words, be proactive. Don't just exist as a town and hope that people will automatically want to do business here. Go out and recruit those businesses. And I think the selectmen should also work up a comprehensive plan to beautify the downtown area and create a pro-business tax incentive program to generate increasing revenues in the long run. Okay, now, I've got macro ideas that need to be shared with other people, and hopefully other selectmen, you know, about possibly tax incentive, maybe property tax incentives, what have you, to bring new businesses into town on a long-term basis. For instance, you may give them a short-term incentive for 1 year based on their being in business the next 2 or 3. The individual elements is not important as the idea of being proactive and going and recruiting those businesses in.
Thank you. Mr. Deacon.
Yes, I think my big issue that I'd like to see is now that the town has to buy that property next to the dump, that we should look into possibly getting a firm price of what that will cost us to clean it up. Because we've been paying for wells, I think, since '94. Obviously, it does get cleaned up. We're going to have to keep the monitoring wells there until we get a clean bill of health. But if this pollution keeps spreading, it could just keep costing us more and more money. It might be more beneficial for the town to get a price to see what it's going to cost to clean that dump up and just take care of it now.
Thank you. Tricia Fuller.
The one goal I have is we really need a constitutional amendment to prevent the return of donor towns and to solidify the formula that they do the education tax, the statewide property tax. Because I don't want, this coming summer is when the formulas can be altered again. And right now, Alton is not due to become a donor town again, but it can always, the formula can be changed by any legislature. And so the only permanent way to fix it is with a statewide constitutional amendment. And Governor Lynch has promised to submit one that would make it permanent, and that is one of my big goals. I've worked 9 years with the coalition communities, and that way we keep all that statewide property tax money here in town like we do now. But for a long time we sent it all out of town. I don't know if everybody remembers when we did that, but for the past 3 years we've been keeping it in town. So that would be my number one goal.
Thank you. Rachel Strickland.
Some of you know me, some of you might not know me. One of my goals is I tell it how it is, pretty much. I'm a very truthful person. What I feel is right for one should be right for the other. That's one of my hugest pet peeves. And pretty much my main goal is just to try to make every single taxpayer happy. I was told that that's going to be very hard to do, but that is my main goal, and I will fight through it. So.
Thank you. Jeffrey Clay.
It's going to sound a bit juvenile, but at the end of 3 years, if elected, when I walk away, I would like to see more harmony, goodwill, faith, confidence in the town, in the running of the town. I'd like to see Board of Selectmen meetings this full, to see all of you people participating in the running of the town. I would like, I mean, that would be my goal, to try to make it more receptive so that people would gather and discuss the issues with the Board of Selectmen and the school board. You see the same thing as I see on TV. Quite often, there's no one in the audience whatsoever. And I find, for such a small town, I would like to see that change. So, by the time I leave, I would like to see that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to change the tape over there, so we'll hold back here for about 3 or 4 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the tape has been changed, so let's move on. Do we have any other questions from the audience of the candidate?
Sydney Johnson. As selectmen, you're all, or you would. Is it off? I don't think so. As selectmen, you would all be privy to very sensitive matters that happen within the town, oftentimes things that need to take place during non-public session.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
You would all be privy to items that would take place in town that would be sensitive in nature, that would need to be discussed in non-public session. If any member of the select board were to release information that was discussed in non-public session, would you stand united and ask that person to step down publicly, or would you protect that person?
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Miller on that.
I always get to go first. Thank you. Okay, first of all, there's degrees. There's not an absolute right or wrong. The easy statement is, of course, you do not want non-public information out there for the public. There could be significant negotiations going on. There's people's reputations that could be seriously affected. And most times, the vast majority of the times, that person should be, for lack of a better word, at least publicly censured for doing that, because that's absolutely wrong. But sometimes just people make a mistake. Something comes out of their mouth that is a small piece of a piece of information that was in a non-public session by mistake, and they shouldn't be totally castigated for that. They should be reminded of their obligation. If this became a regular situation, then that's a whole nother issue. Then it's time for that individual to be replaced. But for one small mistake, no. If somebody does it for political reasons, absolutely.
Mr. Dekoff.
Yes. I've only had a couple non-public sessions with the Budget Committee, which I think this was the first time we've ever had it. And we discussed personal issues, and I feel that it should stay non-public. If we go into non-public for a reason, and if that person goes out and talks about it as the selectmen, we should enforce our policy and have that person apologize to whoever he needs to apologize to. And if it's serious enough, we should ask him to resign.
Patricia Fuller.
First of all, you can't ask them to resign. Somebody can take them to court. And this board has already taken action against a selectman who talked way too much out of non-public session. So my answer is yes. And there's a reason for non-public session, and I think it has to be honored.
Rachel Strickland.
I guess my answer to that question would be if it's a legal matter, I guess I would have to look at the circumstances around it. If it was a legal matter, I probably wouldn't make that publicized of who got fired or who left due to running their mouth or something like that. If it was something childish, I might give them another chance. If it wasn't a legal issue or if it wasn't that big of a deal. As far as publicizing their name out in the paper, as soon as they got told to leave, I would probably talk to the other Board of Selectmen and see what their thoughts were. as far as just putting something small out in the paper, as far as just, even if they putting something out there saying that they resigned, so the town knows that they're no longer in office, and see what happens from there. That's all I can say.
Jeffrey Clay.
I'm a firm believer in laws. RSA 91A, governing right to know laws, is very specific on non-public sessions and public sessions. And I'm going to come close, but I believe non-public sessions have to be published for your inspection, the public's inspection, within 72 hours. It might be 5 days, but I think it's 72 hours. So therefore, unless they're going to seal the minutes, I believe very strongly that those non-public minutes are published so that you, because you have the right to inspect them. Now, as a select person, I would never go out and discuss my opinion, thoughts, or what took place in a non-public session. I would only refer you to read the minutes of the non-public session, which is there for you. I would find that as a breach of my ethics as a select person to do so. And especially, I'll just clarify that if so, and I have no idea what anybody's talking about here, but if it was done with malice and forethought, then I think that warrants the person's resignation. Whether someone can enforce that or not, I think the person should stand up and resign. I would.
David Hussey.
Unfortunately, we cannot dismiss a fellow selectman. At times, I feel I would have loved to fire him, but unfortunately, I can't. No, it's not right to talk out of non-pub. We know that. I mean, maybe some people slip, but some people slip too much, and I know what it is. No, I do not. But I would stand with my other selectmen. I would.
Any other questions from the audience? Got one coming in front of you there, David. David, you're up next.
Do I need to state my name?
You sure do.
Ray Howard. This is more or less a question for the new hopefuls, because I already know how the other selectmen stand on this issue. But speaking of RSA 91, when you go into non-public, you can seal minutes, but there are limits to it. I don't believe this select board has released minutes from any non-public session in at least 20 years. And the public does have a right to know. I don't want to mention any specific names because who knows, I'd probably be in trouble for it. But we have fired people in this town, but no one ever knows what for, why, how, or anything. And the minutes are still sealed, and these things happened 2 or 3 years ago. So my question for the new hopefuls, would you be willing to look at these minutes and release them if it's at all possible? Thank you.
Mr. Dekoff.
That's a loaded question. I'd be willing to take a look at the minutes, but I'd have to defer to the town attorney to see if it would warrant releasing them to the public, and that would be my answer.
Very good. I'm going to jump over you, Pat, seeing you're a newbie.
Well,
I'll come back to you. I'll let you answer after I go through the newbies first. Rachel Strickland.
I believe that if, I've never read the law, if that is a law indeed, I would definitely try to get those minutes released to whoever needs them. It's not like I would actually publish those in the paper, but if somebody come up and asked us at a meeting, a selectman meeting, I would definitely, once we've been asked, I would say, if you don't mind waiting a week or so we can go over it, I wouldn't mind having a problem releasing that to you, as long as it's legal to do so, and everybody agrees that it's okay. So,
Jeffrey Clay.
91A, it's law. You have the right to read the minutes of non-public meetings. And I would be appalled, and I apologize if anybody's here, if this town has been locking away minutes of meetings for 20 years, as the gentleman stated, I have no way of knowing whether this is true or not, and making them all not sealed, that's wrong. That's just bad faith, in my opinion, on the selectmen. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. The non-public minutes are supposed to be made public by law for your inspection. You have a right to look at them. Only in the most egregious cases, and I'm not going to cite the law exactly, but only in the most egregious case where release of the minutes is so damaging to the town, to the reputation of an individual, is the only justification for sealing minutes. I did hear, I won't mention which one, but I heard on one board where there was nothing in the minutes, but they voted to seal the minutes anyways. And I'm like, why? It's illogical. We all have a right to those minutes. They're ours, and I would review and I would insist that they would not seal minutes unless it was so egregious that the public couldn't handle it for some reason.
Steve Miller.
The answer is yes, whatever the statute dictates. If the statute dictates that those minutes can appropriately be unsealed, and we have a similar ruling by the town's attorney, I don't have an issue with that at all.
Mrs. Fuller.
We only go into non-public session for specific reasons, and they're protect people's reputations. It's to talk about legal issues. We would be, if you think our legal fees are high now, they would be tremendously high if we were to release our non-public sessions. We discuss personnel issues. You can't, every time somebody gets let go or we have a major issue, you can't believe, I would love to tell the taxpayers. I really would. But we would wind up in court and be sued by that person. The only way that information gets released is if that person does sue us. Then it becomes public. And there's nothing else that we can do. And you can ask my fellow board members. I'm forever saying this is not a non-public issue. We have to come out of non-public session. And I mean, I'm like a broken record. It's just, this is not non-public subject. We have to come out of non-public session and discuss this issue. So, I'm sorry. I would love to tell people and release the non-public minutes, but we can't do it. The town would be in some serious legal liability if we did. And so that's why we seal them. And the only way they get unsealed is by a court order.
David Hussey.
Yes, again, I've been a selectman for 2 years, and yes, we have gone into non-pub, and it is usually to a personnel matter, which is by law personal. You just can't discuss it. And since I've been here, I think that's about all we've really gone into non-public. There may be a few that I can't remember, but mostly it is personnel or legal.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Conway.
I have just kind of a general comment in response to the statements that you made at the very beginning. We're a year-round destination for various recreation activities. We get a larger population in the summer. When I was 4 years old, my parents came to Alton, had a small cottage in Alton Bay, and I remember there were speedboat rides, and I think the Mount Washington maybe visited on a more regular basis. I'm just wondering, a couple of you mentioned you'd like to encourage tourism to our area, and I just wonder if you have any thoughts about that topic to share with us this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Fuller.
I think we have been doing it by keeping the bay looking well. We do encourage the crafts fairs come back every year. We have the half marathon that comes through. We have a lot of returning businesses and activities Our Parks and Rec puts together a very good summer program, as well as a winter program. We attract a lot of tourism in the wintertime too, for snowmobiling, and skiers come here because they're gonna go to Gunstock. I also am a representative on the Belknap County Economic Development Council, and they work at supporting new businesses, and so they also help new businesses start here in town, which somebody else had talked about earlier. I have been on that for 2 or 3 years. So we just need to keep, keeping the taxes down, but we need to keep attracting new businesses and keeping our bay clean. We're working on cleaning up the milfoil, and we do inspections for milfoil. Also, we're starting to do work on our downtown, working on sidewalks, making the town hall look better, encouraging new businesses there. So that all, hopefully attracts more tourists and more, a better economy for our businesses.
Thank you. Rachel Strickland.
I would love to, like I said earlier, when I was a kid, we used to go roller skating at the roller skate rink right at the bay where the pavilion is now. I would like to see something like another roller skating rink / ice skating rink come into Alton. Obviously roller skating in the summertime, ice skating during the winter. I know that would bring a lot of people in when teenagers and young kids are bored. Hey Mom, can you bring me to the skating rink? I think that would be an awesome thing to do. I know one year up behind the fire department, we actually had a ice skating rink, and then all of a sudden it disappeared and left. I believe that we need, and that would definitely bring in people from different places, because I believe the closest one is in Portsmouth. There might be one in Laconia now, I heard. I believe that we need to relocate our beach that we have now. It is directly in the mouth of the bay, where when boats and stuff fill up with fuel, kids are constantly sucking in gasoline. I believe that that needs to change and maybe make it a little bit bigger, so in the summertime people would love to come and swim. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more topics that we could get into, but I'll let the next person go.
Jeffrey Clay.
I think tourism and businesses are moving this way. I see that, if you look on Route 28 or Route 11, you see the construction, you see new buildings being built. I think people are gravitating more towards the lakes, beaches. So I think with the influx of new residents, which I believe is going to happen over the next 10 to 15 years, new businesses will, as a result, take hold. I mean, I'm just off the top of my head, a couple of things. I came here from South Berwick, Maine, where we raised our children for 16 years. They started off with a very small strawberry festival. And now people come from all over New England to attend it. They have a road race, the downtown is closed off, and the vendors are out, and people are doing, and not only, it's back to that, what I talked about bonding in the community. It's a beautiful downtown, beautiful community. Celebrate it, have a strawberry festival. In the fall, have an apple festival, which like Dover has. They close their entire downtown, and they have an apple festival. People are hungry to get out and visit new places and see things. So I think, I'm not saying these are the answers, but those are some thoughts that come to mind when I think about bringing more tourist dollars or business people get a chance to know what Alton's all about.
Thank you. David Hussey.
I actually think it's probably time to, and I know it's pretty hard to do, but maybe we should start some committees, volunteer committees that actually look into this. Let's take the bull by the horn. I think all of us would love to see more activities on the lake, more activities in different places, but it needs to be planned. And if we don't have a committee or somebody working on it, it never gets done. And you just got to have that uniformly, or to get this going. So yes, I'd be all in favor of some type of committee to start looking at different activities and bringing it into the town of Alton.
Steve Miller.
Okay, you're gonna always have to think about creating a balance with the need for tourism and the need for the citizens of Alton to live in Alton while they live in Alton, for a nice, quiet, rural experience. That being said, the first thing, and I am in favor of bringing limited tourism to Alton, and the first thing you look at is the zoning laws. Are the zoning laws tourism friendly? Is there a reason other than economics or marketing that prohibits, for instance, a zip line company from coming in, or from a cinema to be open, to open in Alton? Okay, and then, for instance, you have to really consider the abutters. Do we want a motorcycle racetrack? Okay, in the middle of a rural area, and how does that affect the abutters? But that being said, once you've taken a look at the current zoning laws and decided that based on the current zoning laws, these are the type of businesses that Alton wants to draw in, then you've got to be proactive. Then somebody physically has to get on the phone and say, look, maybe a cinema makes sense because there isn't one between Concord and Wolfboro. Maybe that makes a lot of sense. But you know what that takes? It takes picking up the phone and calling the different businesses, the franchisees that own these cinemas, and recruiting them into town. And you're going to have to offer them something. You're going to have to somehow assure them that they can make money in Alton, and maybe the town of Alton has to spend some marketing money to demonstrate that, taking a long-term view. And then somebody has to pick up the phone and convince them to come into Alton and sit down and listen to our story and why that business makes sense. So nothing's going to happen unless you physically do it and be proactive yourself.
Mr. Dekoff.
I summited up here for 4 years before I moved up here. I moved up here for the peace and quiet, and I guess I was a tourist myself. I started coming here when I was a kid up at the Alton Bay Conference Center. I've been coming here ever since I was a little kid. We'd have to look at some of our infrastructure in the town. We don't really have any hotels. There's a few little hotels, but people aren't going to really want to bring their families there. A lot of our cottages that used to be rented, everybody's tearing down and building multi-million-dollar mansions. So a lot of that infrastructure that used to be reasonable for families to come and to the Alton for tourism, the cost has become too much. Families are limited with their dollars that they have to spend. And the biggest draw we have is the lake, and you go by Mount Major on the weekend, is the hiking. And that's maybe the areas that we should focus on, and trying to draw some more people and business-related companies for that specific lake and mountain. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Marklin. I was just wondering the candidates' viewpoints. Pat, you mentioned milfoil. What are your viewpoints on the funding of the removing of milfoil? Do you approve of it coming through tax dollars? If you are against that, do you have alternative ideas on how to take care of the milfoil, which obviously needs to be taken care of? Thank you.
Rachel Strickland. Put on your milfoil hat.
I guess it would depend on, I'm not a real milfoil expert. I have no clue on how much this will cost. I guess I would have to do some homework, look it up and see how much it would cost the taxpayers or the town to fix it, because I was told that even if you get rid of the milfoil and somebody else comes in with a boat that has milfoil on it, it's going to transport it back in, and you're constantly going to have this problem. So I really don't know how to answer that question.
Jeffrey Clay.
I'm opposed to the majority of the warrant articles that are up this year, but that's one of the ones that I am in favor of. I think the milfoil, if you don't contain it, if you don't get on top of it right away, you're going to lose it. It's evasive. It's going to spread, and it's going to make things very unappealing. I'm not going to let my grandchildren swim in it, and those types of things, and a lot of people won't.
David Hussey.
Well, the lake is all, you can't let milfoil overtake it. It's our obligation to our children to take care of it. If we don't help fund it, it's going to grow up and it's going to become a swamp. And we're lucky. We have a lot of merchants in this area that donate pretty heavily to this. And we are very lucky. And I would like to commend them on that. And I hope they keep doing it. But yes, the town is obligated to take care of that lake. Thank you.
Stephen Miller.
Okay, it's important to me. I live on Half Moon Lake, and I belong to a homeowners association, and we have been able to contain the milfoil problem. The way we do it, and the way I'd like to see the town do it as well, and they may be, because there's a milfoil committee, and I haven't participated on it, so I may be just regurgitating what they're already doing. But enlist these homeowners associations to help with the milfoil removal. It's predominantly a labor-intensive problem. You have to physically take the milfoil out of the water, and what that means is you need divers. Sometimes with just snorkels, sometimes with scuba equipment. We've been able to enlist enough volunteers to keep our section of the lake absolutely pristine. I think that the town should absolutely commit dollars to eradicate milfoil, because Dave's 100% right. We owe this, not just to ourselves. We owe this to our children and our children's children. And the other thing that everybody may want to consider is enforcement, improving enforcement, which means maybe having the wardens, the fish and game officers, more proactive on the lakes. On the smaller, certainly it's easy to be done on the smaller lakes where they generally have only one boat ramp exit in and out, but to encourage enforcement and what we can get from the state to help on the big lake as well.
Mark Dekoff.
I agree that the town should invest. It's a very wise way to invest our tax dollars in controlling or eliminating the milfoil. We have taxpayers, which are our biggest taxpayers, all around the lake. So we should, for my 2 years that I've been on the budget committee, I've always approved the milfoil.
Tricia Fuller.
Well, as everybody's already hit on parts of it, we do have a milfoil committee. We've already started cleaning up the milfoil in the lake. We have a warrant article for some money. A lot of people do donate to the committee for the ratification of the milfoil. The Board of Selectmen is deeply committed to getting rid of the milfoil. We have inspections of the boats because the lake is Alton. We have the most lake shore frontage of any town on the lake, and we need to protect it. And so, we are committed and are taking steps to get rid of it. And they are going to dive and pull it. We know that has to be done. So,
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? I have one question here submitted by Mr. Chuck Weston, who couldn't be here this evening, but wanted me to post this out there. Should the public have any input on changes, if required, after the review of the police department? And this would be Mr. Clay first.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Should the public have any input on changes, if required, after the review of the police department?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They come to the Board of Selectmen, voice their concerns, their requests for changes that they would like to see made, and participate in government that way.
Mr. Hussey?
Yes, I do believe that the public should have something to say.
Mr. Miller?
Absolutely.
Mr. Dekoff?
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller?
absolutely.
Rachel?
Definitely.
Any other questions for these candidates? Hearing or seeing none, we'll go to the 1-minute wrap-up on this, and I'm going to start just the opposite the way we started originally. I'll go to Mr. Dekoff first.
Okay, I would like to ask the voters of Alton to elect me for selectman for 3 years. I feel with my background in the military business and serving on your budget committee that I could help the town of Alton. As we come out of these tough economic times, we will still have to watch how we invest your tax dollars. Alton is a great town, and we need to have the balance of growth to keep our tax rate as low as possible. I'd ask for your vote on March 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Miller.
First of all, the reason that I didn't say anything, I'm a candidate for a 3-year position on Budget Committee as well. And this is not a fallback to that, and that is not a fallback to this. Quite frankly, I hope to accomplish both. I hope to be elected, with your permission and your confidence as a selectman, and then represent the selectmen as the selectman representative through the Budget Committee next year. So I have every full intention of doing both jobs. That being said, everybody pretty much who knows me knows that I have never voiced or registered a municipal or school complaint or concern without posing a reasonable solution. I don't complain about something and then don't have an answer. It may not be the best answer, it may not be the most right answer out there, but I'm absolutely trying to solve the problem. I am outspoken so that everybody knows where I stand, and I pretty much tell you where I stand without a hedge clause. I've always considered myself directly accountable to the Alton taxpayers and the Alton school children. I'm not accountable to the Budget Committee, I'm not accountable to the ZBA, not the selectmen, not the school board, not the teachers. I will only act in the best interest of the Alton taxpayers and their children. After that, I let the chips fall where they may. That being said, I also have no intention of putting out signs and littering lawns and politicking and waving. If my words and my actions don't convince you to vote for me for selectman, I don't think a sign will either. So I hope you'd at least give me an honest consideration, and thank you for coming.
David Hussey.
I'm hoping for your vote. I'm asking for your vote. We have started a few things here in Alton that I would like to continue. I would like to make government more workable with the people. I would like to see us start, instead of paying $99 for a hammer, actually going out there and looking for a deal out there. And that's what we've instituted. We've started putting in limits on what people can buy. We've started scrutinizing what people could buy. And this needs to be done. It can no longer be business as usual at Town Hall. We need to scrutinize every single penny that we spend out there. And I really think we've been doing it. Thank you.
Jeffrey Clay.
Just a quick recap, I said this prior, but like many of you, I greatly appreciate the service and dedication of those selectmen and school board members who have volunteered so much of their time and energies toward making Alton such a great place to live and to go to school. However, I firmly believe that change and leadership is good for a community. Let a new set of eyes come into it, clear, hadn't seen it before, and make an assessment and move forward. Before I give my final statement here, I want to say openness and transparency is the most important thing. I agree with the Attorney General who says this, that openness and transparency in public affairs is the most important thing for a democracy to hold it together. I am not pleased with the fact that it is the practice to seal all non-public meetings. I promise, if you elect me, that I will do everything I can to stop that as a normal procedure and open up all non-public session minutes to the public. That's what the law requires. Therefore, I humbly ask for your vote to elect me to both the school board and the board of selectmen, where may I be able to better devote my time, energies, leadership towards accomplishing our collective goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rachel Strickland.
I appreciate everyone coming tonight. The main reason why I'm running for selectman, I feel like the town needs a change. I feel like I'd be a great asset to my town. My interests for the town, my interests are for the people in the town and listening to the voters' concerns and trying to work with what we have. I will handle matters in a professional manner and doing what I feel is best for everyone. Please consider me on your vote for election day.
Thank you. Patricia Fuller.
It has been a privilege to serve the town for the past 9 years as your selectman, and I truly would like to continue to do that. I have a record that speaks for itself, and as always, I would be open and honest, and I think I've always done that, and I've always spoken for things to, as much information to be given to the taxpayers and the citizens of this town as can be given to them. But as I said before, there's times when we just can't release the information no matter how much we would like to. I hope you will re-elect me as your selectman. I would like to continue. I've enjoyed the past 9 years. And I thank you all for coming, and I thank you for considering me.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for selectmen. Thank you all very much for a good meeting.